What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Brant will be here, just so you guys know. But for right now, I have by my side, I have Cat Comic Uno.
Hello, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, and then today, like usual, I think we're going to have a pretty good show. We got some news to talk about, maybe not a ton of news, but we do have some news. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the comic books as well. So I think, like I said, it's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk about that, that Ultimate XMen book, see what everybody else thought of it as well. And so, yeah, just a lot of cool things, guys. So, what do you want to do, Kat? Do you want to start with the news first?
Yeah, I know we started with books last week, but honestly, I think there's not as much news. And because Brant's not here, we'll start with news first. But yeah, let's get into the only media news we had here. But it's Seth Rogen reportedly is going to produce the Amazon 8 billion Genies. I know you and Brant read it. Seth Rogen's an interesting pick, or I guess he chose it, but still.
Listen, I'm glad that we finally got, people attached to this movie because it was announced a long time ago. And you know how things get announced and they say they're coming out, right? And then all of a sudden you don't hear anything for years and years. And being that you had the writer's strike and all that stuff that went along with it, it's great to see people attached for it. And I bet people who ever have copies of 8 billion Genies right now are probably like, yes, finally, because, a lot of people were specking hard on that book. But nevertheless, it's definitely a good story. If no one has not read that story yet, I recommend it. I think it was really good. And it's a lot of fun and just something completely different that I never read before when it first came out.
So let's get into some comic news here. We have, I want to definitely save the G.I. Joe stuff for Brant when he comes on, but Apocalypse is going to get a successor, an X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. So I believe is going to be like post-Krakoa, right before this new era. It's kind of on this, limbo space we're in with X-Men.
I don't get, though, why Apocalypse needs an heir. Like, we haven't seen him in forever. I think at least I haven't seen him since Ten of Swords. I don't know what else he's been in. Maybe he was in a miniseries recently, actually, but I didn't find it interesting now that I remember. But
too many miniseries and books to keep track of with X-Men.
Yeah. And I figure, like, why does he need an heir? I don't know. I'm kind of confused on all this. Like, we're doing something of this character that we haven't seen in the longest time, and I don't know. I'm just lost on it. I was curious to hear what Brant thought of this, but I don't know. I guess we'll see as time goes along. I'm just kind of burnt out on X-Men right now. Just way too many miniseries to keep up with, and it all seems like a big jumbled mess for me. So I'm just sticking with main X-Men and Iron Man, and that's it until this is all over.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I'm reading any other X-Men titles, but I think it's just the main X-Men too, which we'll talk about this week's. But this was interesting news from Marvel as well. So the Infinity comic books that have been coming out is going to be available for free on the Marvel Unlimited app, I guess.
Yes.
Which, great, it's going to be free, but shame on you that it's just like on the Unlimited app that's already kind of hard to access. Like I've tried in the past. I don't think it's the most user friendly, and also you're not hitting a new crowd. Like the whole point is to make this new is to hit someone that hasn't even heard of these books, and I do feel like they make it very hard to read these books. And I think that's a shame because there's some really great ones on there that at least have hit print, like Jeff the Land Shark being an example of that. So I don't know. I wish they did a partnership with someone else, like a Webtoon or a Tapas, to get these books in people's hands.
If they promote it correctly to constantly tell people that this is available on the Unlimited app for free, like you don't even need to log in to read these.
But who are they targeting then? Just the Marvel fan, Because like, all right, we're already reading comics. If they're targeting us, like you're not that's not what these comics should be for. These comics should be for the people who are reading web comics and have never read a Marvel comics. I'm just like, what? Like, why make it free? Like, who's your target audience here?
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, and are those stories good too? I mean,
Right.
it's just
I haven't read enough to say, but
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess if you want to say if there's any type of direction, at least they're trying something.
Right.
And I mean,
I
that's all I can
guess, right?
say.
But are they?
I
Again,
mean,
like, are they?
I don't know if they're going to get people to read those in any other way unless they are for free. I mean,
But don't you think another platform that has readers, like even like freaking Tumblr, something that's like just targeting different people that aren't at the comic book store, I think really should be the target. And that's why I'm like confused, because the people who are going to read this for free are people who already read comic books. You already have them. Like that's the thing I'm so confused by.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. I don't know, man. I don't know. But in reality, though, I don't have any interest in reading these, even though they are for free. Like, that's just my opinion. I'm like, oh, Infinity. Like, I could have read them that day when I read the article, and there's like, oh, yeah, they're available now for free. I'm like, I could have read them right away, And yeah, no. I was like, okay, whatever.
If it ends up in print, I'll read, because again, the only one that I really feel attached to is Jeff, and that's because Kelly Thompson was writing it and the artist is really good. But other than that, maybe there's one or two. Like there was like a Spider-Girl little mini series with the Spider-Verse stuff that was on there. I never had a chance to read. There was like a Julie Power love story thing that Jeremy Whitley wrote, like little arcs that I'm like, oh, that looked interesting, but nothing to really be like, whoa, I gotta pick up all that,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the next thing here, which is Zatanna getting a Black Label book. I thought this was cool. Mariko Tamaki's writing it. I think this is in her wheelhouse. We saw it with Supergirl being super, and it's cool just to see another character. I really hope it's not one of those premium books. I'm really tired of the magazine size, but yeah, no, I'm picking this up. I'm actually pretty excited for. Also, the artist who did the Spider Woman, the pregnant art, is drawing it, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
so that should be pretty solid.
I listen, I don't know that much about Zatanna, but what I like is what you already said, is that it's a different character that we're getting to read. And that's just something that we don't get all that often. Right. So I'm kind of excited for that. And being that it is a Black Label book, it will, push the boundary a little bit, you would think. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah. We have let's see. We also have there's two bigger news pieces, but we'll do this one. I think only me and Brant want to talk about. But Vault is teaming up with Zoop, but not really for a crowdfunding campaign. It's like a crowd building campaign. So it's for them to promote their new Barbaric volume, and they're using Zoop to sell t-shirts and read the book early before it comes out. And I think this is brilliant way to use Zoop. I hope that crowdfunding is utilized in more ways like this to get again these direct market people to go on crowdfunding websites and vice versa. I just thought this was cool. Did it make me want to read Barbaric? I don't know, but for people who are fans of that, I think it's a cool campaign.
The original Barbaric and the second Barbaric were really good. I think one of the most recent arcs weren't so good. And then they had a spin-off book. So I'm not sure, obviously, what, this one will be. But if you want to read a fun and different book, definitely check out Barbaric and Trade. This would be a fun little project to back for sure, And
I'm not sure if the book is free. I don't know what that is, or let me actually see. Maybe it's like cheaper. But yeah, it should be an interesting opportunity to read it. Kat, have you seen Madam Web yet? I have, and I thought it was bad fun. So go see it if you're looking for a bad time. I enjoyed it in that regard. I think we've talked about it in previous episodes, though, so I won't go too far in that. All right, moving on to these last two pieces. I'm still going to try saving G.I. Joe for last, but XMen issue 35 is going to be issue 700, which is the 10th final farewell to the Krakoa age. And I don't know, man. We'll talk about X-Men later, but I'm really, really excited for something new. I think it's pretty obvious that Gail Simone's going to be taking over X-Men. That's been the buzz pretty much, and they're going to like officially announce it. It looks like it's C2E2. So I'm excited for something new, man. And, you know, I think Kitty and Rogue are supposed to take over the teams. I think that's cool. But Krakoa, man, I have not enjoyed Krakoa in a long time.
Well, you know, when the fall of X first happened, right, and you wind up getting to see Kitty like lose her crap and kill everybody, and she was forced to
for one issue.
And the gala happened, and everyone got to like that was intense. And this whole thing has been going on way too long, just like way dragged out. And with all the series that have come around it too, it's just like it's saturated it to the point where it's like, who cares at this point? Like, it's just a jumble just, it's just messy. And I don't like it, you know? Like I said, the only thing I like truly right now is Iron Man, and I could say that's the one I truly enjoy.
Right.
X-Men is like a hit or miss for me. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. I think Jerry Duggan just does a better job with individual characters. Like one or two.
Or you might have the restraints. You never know. Iron Man, I'm sure, has a little less restraints than the flagship X-Men book.
Right. So, and the book that I will be upset that is ending is going to be Iron Man. So, you know, but besides all the other stuff, you know, I need something new for sure.
Yeah. I need a good story. That's all. I need good story that just propels characters forward. That's literally all I'm asking for, is just character story. And we have not gotten that from the X-Men in a long time. And it's been a shame. All right, let's get into the last news piece. So the last thing is these two new G.I. Joe titles. So we have Scarlet and Destro. Scarlet's going to be written by Kelly Thompson, and I don't know who the artist is. I don't know if I can find it. And then the writer of the Destro is going to be Dan Waters, and looks like Andre Bresman, who has done Birthright and Dark Ride, is doing the art for that. And then Marco Ferreri is doing the art for Scarlet. I did drop a lot of the G.I. Joe books because they weren't for me, but I do like Kelly Thompson's writing. So I'll probably pick up the Scarlet book to see what that's about.
The Destro story could be very interesting, just to see how Cobra starts to come together and what Destro's story is. And there's certain characters in there. But yeah, knowing Kelly Thompson, I figured you would pick that one up. You know, Scarlet's a pretty cool character, one of the main characters in G.I. Joe. I'm really excited about this particular series. You know, obviously, maybe some people may say like, oh yeah, might be the best writers, but you know, who was to say that Joshua Williamson was going to write such a fantastic Duke and Cobra Commander book? You know, and who was going to say that not Joshua Williamson, but Daniel Warren Johnson was going to write one of the best books of the year when it came to Transformers, right? I mean, we all knew he's a good writer, but did you expect him to do such a great job with it? I mean, so don't judge before a book comes out, right? I mean, you just never know. So hopefully that these books will be good, and it continues the Energon universe the way that it is right now.
We do have a question from Dynamite. Is there going to be a main series in this universe, or just a mini series? I'm sure there will be, but there hasn't been an announcement about it.
I would like to, as you would have an Energon version, and then, you know, Hama's version as well. But it just looks like for now we're going to be getting miniseries. So maybe to explore these characters. Maybe this is their way of, hey, get to learn Cobra Commander, get to learn Duke, get to learn Destro, get to learn Scarlet. Maybe they'll do a Snake Eyes and a Storm Shadow book. Maybe, you know, they'll do a Dreadnoks book. Maybe they'll do, so you get to know all the characters, and then they'll release a G.I. Joe book, and then you're like, okay, this is what we can expect from these versions of the characters in the Energon universe. And I know about them because you read these miniseries. So maybe that's what they're doing. This is their way of introducing these characters.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for sure. Also, I think that's all the news. So let's go into, I'll talk about my Kickstarter, and then I guess we'll go into, maybe we'll do a little Q&A as we wait for Brant. Just,
Sure.
The comics, there weren't too many. So get your questions going, and we'll may answer some Q&A for 5 or 10 minutes. So, yeah, let's get into my Kickstarter here. I'm going to share the screen. Let's do entire screen. Okay. So I have a Kickstarter going on right now for Slice of Life. It's my baby here. It's our webtoon. We've been doing it for over 2 years. It's about an anime character comes to life, falls in love with a high school cheerleader. And with this, we get to see the whole first season. So it's over 200 pages of story. If you like character work, you enjoy Slice of Life storytelling and drama, go check this one out. I'll put the link in the description. Also, the Ringo Awards are out. So you can nominate your favorite comics, and hopefully you guys can nominate us in some of these categories. We have Beast and Snow that came out for maybe you can nominate for that for best series. We have also Hairology, which had Gail Simone on it for best anthology. Lifeline Comics for best publisher. Hopefully you guys could go support us and go to ringoawards.com. It really helps. So that's that. And
look who's here.
Oh, and Brant came on right in time.
He's hiding behind the curtain.
I was hiding behind the curtain. I was like, I'll just pop on when she's done. So
there you go. I love it. So you made it just in time. We did talk about the news. So we also have questions. We are going to do a little Q&A as well. So keep going with the Q&A. And Brant, I'm sure you want to talk about G.I. Joe. I know that was one. Was there anything else on the news that you would like to talk about?
Specifically, just the Seth Rogen 8 billion Genies thing that really worries me.
Man,
I'm not the hugest fan of Seth Rogen, and his but at the same time, 8 billion Genies is kind of an out there franchise, so maybe it'll work. I don't know. Not hopeful for that one. Yeah, we'll see. G.I. Joe's the main thing. Obviously, I'm excited about that. Destro and Scarlet. Great creative teams on both of those books. I'm really excited about Scarlet specifically. Can't wait for those to come out.
Cool. Well, let's get some of these questions going here. So SM Down says, what's your personal goal for amount of money? I remember you said you have a personal goal, a posted goal, and a different personal one. That's for all different campaigns, but honestly, we've kind of reached higher than that right now in Slice of Life. That was just a book that we wanted to make our money back, and it's reached higher in the goal. Nightmare did really well as well. I never like saying my personal goals out loud, but I think that just they usually jinx things. But you can know for these campaigns, we've reached over our personal goals, so that was great, and we funded to make the book and to make a living off of this as well. So that always helps.
I think all Kickstarter comic creators, maybe all Kickstarter creators in general, have that unspoken kind of personal goal that they hope it reaches to, but try to be realistic at what you actually can do and stuff like that. So,
right. This is a better formed question from Tevia, because Tevia did ask how did we feel about the passing of the Dragon Ball Z creator? And I think those questions are always hard because it's just I'm sad, those are usually how you answer those. But he did twist it a little bit. And so, what was your favorite Dragon Ball Z moment, if any? And I will also say I don't think any of us watch Dragon Ball Z, so we probably don't have any. But I'm happy
to watch Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, so Mike has some Dragon Ball Z. Then
I think I watched the whole show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I was, I don't know, how old was I? 24, 23.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah.
That's when it was out, and it was on Cartoon Network on Toonami is when I first started watching it. And I remember all the time I would go to the gym, it would be on, I'd be the only one at this gym. Is at my apartment complex, and you would be in control of the TV. So while I was working out, I would be watching Dragon Ball Z, you know, and I used to love that show. I mean, and then I would used to watch it on repeats all the time. So obviously, like, I can't remember or pinpoint one of my favorite moments because there's so many of those moments where it's just like one episode is just like goes on forever is one scene. But I always would point it out, like when Piccolo is like powering up and he has his finger to his forehead for like 25 minutes of the episode and he's trying to defeat Vegeta, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you with this one blast." And it like takes the whole episode and he just points his finger at Vegeta and all he does is he like misses. Like he turns to the side. I think he hits like his scout meter or something. And then that was it. And you're like, and then Vegeta's just like, oh, and it's just like, that's the show, man. And it's just like, oh my God. But it's
that was every
weird
fight.
thing. I just got hooked on it. What's that?
I said that was every fight.
Yeah, that's true.
It really
Yeah,
was.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah. I never watched it, but my brother did. And my brother, you know, significantly younger than me. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I just could never get into it. It was just, everything took so long in that show. And it just wasn't my thing. But he was really into it. So I would watch it occasionally with him. And, you know, I played with him with the toys and stuff. And he was really into it. So I did see a fair amount of it, but I didn't pay enough attention to it. It was a weird show. And like there was always kind of crazy stuff going on in that show. But I can't remember.
You like action, you probably will really like it. But if
over exaggerated fights and you know and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Close-up reactions and all that.
We do have another question. Is anyone going to pick up Napalm Lullaby? Yeah, I think all three of us are going to pick it up.
I am,
yeah.
Yep.
So we got that. That's all the questions I see. So I guess we could go into our comics and then we could, if we have enough time, we'll do another Q&A at the end. But 60 people watching. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. So let me switch it over here to Big Book time. And we'll go into it because this is our main topic. And basically it's discussing about X-Men issue 1. Or I should say, Ultimate X-Men issue 1. And why, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, this isn't such an ultimate comic book, or there's no X-Men to be found in this Ultimate X-Men comic. And my thing is in ways, yes, you are definitely correct. There is no X-Men. You know, there's a mutant, maybe, right?
They don't say the word.
But you got to sit there and say, okay, this is a much different storyteller than what we're used to reading in, you know, regular comic books, right? And at the end of the day, you got to look at it too as this is one character that's figuring out that she has abilities. And I feel like the way this storytelling is based off of almost just like what we were just talking about, like Dragon Ball Z, where you have a scene or something that happens and it's going to take some time for it to develop, right?
It was very manga, like all of it.
Yes.
Really, like almost, and what was weird about it is almost a romance manga because you get, and I'm guessing they're not going to go that direction because in the comics, Armor is gay. So I was really confused by that, but they like really lean into like, oh, she has this relationship with this guy and he's a ghost now. And I was like, oh man, this feels very anime, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like obviously you're reading all these other X-Men books and it's just like, oh, I've seen that a billion times. Like I do want to see something different. I definitely sold me to read the next issue, but I don't think it sold me to be like, whoa, this is the best X-Men book out there, you know?
I think it's like if this kind of story is your thing, I've read like some people are really excited about this and this like knocked them off their, you know, out of their socks or whatever. And it's like, this kind of story is not for me. It's not my kind of tale. It's just, it didn't appeal to me much at all. I will read the second issue. I think it gave me enough. Right. I like some of the changes they made. I like the way her armor was presented. in this version, and I do like that it has a more anime feel because it is something different, like you said, Kat. But at the same time, I don't know if it's for me, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about it, going forward.
We did have a question just real quick from Ron's page because I think it kind of relates to this. Mike had some bad reads last week. I seen on his video. What about everyone else? Is it a bad month so far for comics? That I wanted to mention because these past 2 weeks the last week I didn't have a lot of great books, and then this week nothing really blew me away either. And I have like 15 books next tomorrow, so I'm hoping. And what really is sad is books I thought were gonna blow me away didn't. And that was really upsetting this week, where I was just like, oh, I'm excited to read this. And then it just kind of falls flat. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And last week the same thing happened. I'm really hoping this week is a little better.
Yeah, I read 17 of my 19 books this week. And only my top 3 I like really enjoyed. And the rest of them was like middle of the road or didn't really enjoy that much. So and it was the same last week for me as well. So yeah, it's been that kind of month, and it's weird.
It's a lot of the new number ones that haven't been all that great.
Yeah,
True.
That's where I've been finding where my least favorite books are. But going back to Ultimate X-Men, some people were like, "Well, this is not an X-Men book. This is not it." You got to look at it as it does has similarities to the beginning of a tale of an X-Men story. Like when you look at the X-Men, they're outcasts, right? This girl, she's basically an outcast, right? She's being made fun of and things like that. And, her friend committed suicide and just, it was tough. And then in distress situation, her mutant ability kicked in. That's very much just what happens to the same with the X-Men. So instead of featuring many characters, it's featuring one character that doesn't even know what she has yet. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like now I think down the road, my prediction is that we're going to get different characters and we're going to get introduced to them, and it's going to lead into something in the future. So there's so many people out there from what I've seen and read, and they're just jumping down this book going, where's the Ultimate X-Men part? There's no X-Men to be found. It's just, you got to give it time. And like you guys said already, it reads very much like a manga book. And this is a different storyteller. She's Peach Momoko's different. So, give it time. And I think it could be something good. And like you said, Brant, it's not for everybody. If you don't like this storytelling, then I can understand why. And if you don't like it, that's great. I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is what it is.
Barlord, I kind of completely agree with. It's just like, I wanted something different from the 616 stuff. You got it, but it was fine, and I think that's okay. Like that's okay that, that's happening. And I hope issue 2 blows me away. And that's something I've noticed about everything but Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe, is that obviously Spider-Man's blowing us away because they're doing everything we wanted. But Black Panther was just okay, but gave me enough for an issue 2. This was just okay, but gave me enough for an issue 2.
Yeah. And I feel like, with this version of the Ultimate Universe, unlike the first one, where I think we dove right into the middle of, we still got origin tales and everything with the first, but we already knew the characters. We were introduced to the stories real quick, villains, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like in all of these books, they're doing a slower build and they're trying to make it more long lasting to a longer form storytelling in these. Yeah. And when you're talking about team books, especially, there's 2 ways to do that. You either bring everybody together in the first issue and it feels forced and all that kind of stuff, or you slow build it. And I feel like that's what they're doing here. And like you said, Mike, we're getting one character at a time. Then they're going to join together because of their commonalities and, so on and so forth. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think that doesn't make this an X-Men book. It's just, it's a very slow, decompressed kind of build up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Paul says, I think I would really like this as a standalone, and the Ultimate X-Men actually had an X-Men character we're all familiar with, like Spider-Man and Black Panther. I think the thing I did like about using someone like Armor is that there's no, I won't say there's no connection because there's people that do like Armor, but there's not as many people being like, oh, what did you do to Armor? I can't believe you did that. She's such a fresh character that's just like, you kind of could do anything with her, but she's a known enough character that it's like, well, who's this person? Like, I honestly think Armor is kind of the perfect character to do this.
Yeah, it almost leads like an independent book in a way, and this way people can't tear you apart. Going like Kat said, tear you apart. Going, oh, you didn't write this character right, or why? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the benefit of doing the Ultimate Universe, and the same thing the first way around, is that you can do things with these characters and these franchises that you can't necessarily do in the 616. You can go completely off book. You don't have to stick to continuity and all the things, past expectations, all that stuff. You can mix it up, and I think going with a lesser known character is the smart way to go with that. So.
And one thing I'll be interested to see is the queer angle as well, because there's, again, always the argument of like, don't make my favorite character queer. Like, why did you turn them queer? And Armor is already a queer character that I don't know if a lot of people know is. So I'm curious to see if they end up telling that story, what people's reactions are. He's like, oh man, I can't believe you did this, or whatever they're going to say. But I'm also curious about that aspect of it as well, just showing something different. And there is a lot of diversity. You have a person of color with Black Panther leading a title, then you have a queer character, you have Spider-Man. I think you are trying to get all different angles of life here, which I think is really cool.
And then also any other X-Men characters that are going to be in this Ultimate X-Men book. You know, the only other character I know that's going to be in here is the new one, the May Storm character. Yeah, you know. Otherwise, I'm clueless on who all the other characters are going to be.
And she doesn't even show up in this issue, so she's going to show up in next issue. But which is kind of crazy too, because they've been really hyping her up on all the covers, and she was even in the covers for issue 1.
Yeah, she was in. I bought a 1 in 25 cover. And she was on that one. And Armor wasn't even on that cover.
Mm-hmm. I'd be interested. I do genuinely, because it is the Ultimate Universe, want to give it a real shot. So curious to see where it goes. And nothing's disappointed me. Like, this was not disappointing.
It was a quick read too. It wasn't a very like,
and good art, obviously.
It was. I mean, her art is very different. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying it's different, you know.
It's not your typical superhero art.
Yeah, it's unique. And the only thing I didn't like though was the lettering. I didn't like the lettering from like the Ghost character, because it was like very like, it was like this, like this, like this, like this, and it was very thin lined, and I just didn't like that. I'm very It's funny when it comes to lettering in books. It's like I'm so picky about it, because it's like I don't like when they mess with it, or like when it's in script or a different font, or you know, it kind of takes you out of the story a little bit, you know.
On behalf of all letterers everywhere, thank you for paying attention to the lettering, Mike.
See, I knew you would appreciate that one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you know, people underestimate what lettering adds to a book, I think. But that's another topic for another time.
Okay, so Ultimate X-Men. So I guess we're all together here. We're all going to keep reading it to see the direction that it goes. I think it's almost unfair to sit there and say, I'm going to drop it after one issue, because you don't really get all that much after one issue.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Definitely feels like it's written for trade as well. So,
yeah.
Right. All right. So let's move on. We got the return of Void Rivals. Kat is not reading this book, but Brant and I are. This is the other book that's in the Energon universe. And this book, it was a weird way to return in a way, because it was just like, okay, our heroes are out surviving in this wasteland. And then you get introduced to this character all of a sudden. And I'm like, wait a second, who's this guy? I had to reread the book like twice and realize that this hunter character, whoever the heck he was like a bounty hunter to search for these guys, was like in this different, like, I don't know, mindscape or something like that. It was weird, you know. This was not my favorite issue of this, because it was just, I don't know, it felt a little weird to come back to.
Okay, I got two things to say about this mystery character, or whatever, Proximus, I think was the name. He was in a tube. His body had been ravaged and all that stuff.
Right.
And so, yeah, the interesting thing was his body was robotic, which makes me believe that these are sentient robotic beings now, and that ties them further into like Transformers and that whole world, which is kind of interesting to me. He could just be a cyborg, but I don't know.
Right.
The other interesting thing about him was the symbol on his forehead almost looked like a combination of the two. So I wonder if this was what they looked like before they split apart, or if he's a product of two, of one from each, world or whatever. So that was interesting to me as well, because it was completely different than either one of their symbols.
I didn't even pay attention to that, to tell you the truth.
That's the first thing I noticed. Yeah. So that was interesting. And so that instantly made me want to know more about this character and the history behind that character and stuff. And also the fact that Derek had been to the Wasteland before was interesting.
Yes,
and
I did find out. I'm like, really? I'm like, you've been there before,
Right. So that shows there's more mystery to this character, and he's kind of playing it cool. And so there's a lot there to jump us off, and a lot more questions than answers, which is good for an ongoing series, of course. So
yeah.
But it was a weird place to come back into it. I agree.
Right, because they kind of just like jump into this character, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I'm like, all of a sudden we're getting into this guy. I mean, when you get done reading it, it makes sense. Like I had to read it almost twice.
Yeah.
Because I got to the end of it and I'm like, oh, wait a second. This guy is in like a mindscape or something like that. And then he's actually a robot. Like he's normal there. And then he comes out and he's like this cybernetic being. So it's just weird. And they had a disagreement. They obviously maybe fought in the past or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting book. But I wanted it a little bit more, I think, at the same time too.
Yeah. It definitely wasn't new reader friendly either. It's not a jumping on point.
No.
You had to have read the previous arc to understand what was going on here. So
absolutely. All right. So then let's dive into it. Let's begin with our number 5. Kat, what's your number 5?
Ultimate X-Men. We already talked about it.
My number 5 as well.
There you go.
Yep.
Didn't quite make it up that high for me.
I mean, it's one of those weeks.
So mine, again, it was only my top 3 that I really like. So this is, I was going back and forth between this and X-Men. So it's Verge Prey, issue 7.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if that made my. Yeah, it did make my top 5.
Okay. I did so far. I like it better than the first arc. The art has changed. I don't know how I feel about the art yet. I think it is good art. I'm not
same
in love with
coloring.
the coloring. Yeah, I'm not in love with the coloring. Yeah, exactly. But I do like the characters. I like Barbara. Obviously, I like her being involved. Throw Vixen in there. It's a completely different vibe. So I appreciate that. It was a good start to this arc. We'll see where it goes, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, no, I felt the same exact way. I thought it was a better arc than what we've been getting. I like to see Barbara and Dinah interact, but also, is it something like, whoa, this is the best book I've ever read? No, but it's fun, and it's kind of like Batgirl's level right now, where Batgirl's got to a point where I was enjoying it. Was it my favorite book all the time? No, I think there was one arc I really, really liked. We both really liked. But it was always just like, yeah, it's there and I'm having a fun time. It doesn't have to be in my top 5 to enjoy the read. And that's kind of how I felt here, even though it wasn't my top 5 because of the week it was. We do have a question from Tevi. I will not answer the June 2 one because we have talked about that every week, but I'll answer the Kung Fu Panda. I don't want to see Kung Fu Panda 4, and that's my answer.
I don't think I saw 3. So
I haven't seen 1 through 3. So
dude, I haven't seen any of them. I think I've seen like bits or pieces of them, and that's it.
I've definitely seen 1. I think I may have seen 2. I don't really remember.
So no Kung Fu Panda for us. There's no good movies coming out right now. I'm sad to report, but no.
Here's a comment. So we had Comic Toby says, for some reason I picked up Avengers Twilight 2 through 4. Why is that weird? I don't understand. Did you not get 1?
Or he just saying the book seems odd.
Like okay.
Maybe.
Seems odd. It is a good book. I like it. Grant liked the last issue last week. Yep.
It's a good series. It's just it's one of those, like, I don't know if it was, something I needed, but I've enjoyed it. I think it's a good series.
Yep. Okay. So that was number 5, and we all went, right? Yes.
We do have a comment here from Parker. Yeah. Are you going to be talking about Ultimate X-Men in this, besides it also be a part of your topics tonight? So we put it together. So the topic was, we did talk about it. Like, it not being an X-Men book. Is it an X-Men book? So we
started with the topic and then went into our thoughts about the issue.
Yeah.
Any opinions on the Oscars? I love the Oscars. I watch it every year. But it was good. We won't take too much time about it. But I love the Oscars.
I watched a little bit of it. I mean,
I saw
Oppenheimer, I guess, is the best movie of the year. I guess I don't know.
I
saw
John Cena was naked.
Emma Stone had her dress like come undone when she went to go get her.
Really?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. That moment was big. That moment was big because a lot of people thought Lily Gladstone was gonna win, and she was like she was gonna win, and then like Emma Stone was very surprised that she won, so she was like, "Oh, I didn't prepare really anything, and my dress is undone, and I don't know what to say."
That's fun.
I really like Emma Stone. I
do too.
Yeah, I think
I want to see that movie. I haven't gotten to see it yet. It just hit Hulu, so I want to see it. Poor things. It looks weird.
It does. Lisa and I are gonna watch it at some point.
At some point, that's the key.
Yeah.
Invincible comes out soon again.
Yeah.
Excited
for that.
All right, so let's move on to the next number 1 that came out this week, and it was Spectacular Spider-Man. This is
so many thoughts on this. I have so many thoughts.
Done by Greg Weisman, Roberto Ramos. Personally, I actually like this book. I thought it was
too.
I thought it was a really fun book. I love them just hanging out and being pals and going to the college and going to the Coffee Bean, and Peter trying to be like a regular, and guy can't get his freaking order right, which is hilarious. And then like Miles being the Gen Z guy and Peter being the old guy, and he's using his app and he just goes through the regular line. And I thought all that stuff was just really a lot of fun. And then there's this mystery with this whole, I don't know, I guess science experiment going on by the time you wind up getting to the end of it. I loved it. And I love the familiar artwork to it as well. I love Roberto Ramos's art.
I like the chemistry a lot. Like, I enjoyed Miles. I love that there's a supporting cast. I did not love the timelines. I thought like the way they jumped felt very confusing to me, and that was something that I didn't love.
I totally agree with you there, because when I reviewed this comic book on my Worthy Ones show, I specifically pointed that out, like as it interrupted the flow of the book. It was like then, now, then, now.
Yeah.
And someone pointed it out. Obviously, it has to do with what's going on in the main plot with the boy that takes the number. And I think it's an experiment of these people like living like their best lives, and you get. I just don't think it.
Right.
It wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it didn't, and it made an issue 1 kind of confusing, where you're trying to like hook people in.
Correct.
And honestly, it didn't make my top 5 because of it. Even though I thought the art was solid, and because I thought the characters were interesting, but that really didn't make this a good issue 1 for me. I hope that doesn't deter issue 2, 3, and 4, but I also kind of know Greg Weisman's storytelling, and it's gonna continue. It's just like it's what he likes to do. So it definitely gave me enough for issue 2, but I wanted to love this, and I'm glad, Mike, you did. But I wanted to love this more than I did. But it also, I didn't hate it, so it was just kind of like in the middle for me.
Yeah, I agree about the time jumps. It took me out of it a little bit too, and sometimes I had to like flip back, but I still enjoyed it overall. I think I had such kind of hesitancy about it going in because I too know Greg Weisman's writing, and sometimes it loses it for me. But I was like pleasantly surprised with this one, and I love the relationship between them. The comedic moments that you pointed out, Mike, were a lot of fun. I was a little confused about where the plot was going, so that's kind of my nitpick.
Right.
You know, we got there in the end, but it was a little weird trying to figure out what was actually going on at first. But yeah, and obviously the art, I love Humberto Ramos,
Right.
and especially Humberto Ramos on SpiderMan. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Cool. All right, and we got a question here. It says, "Here's a great question for you three. Since the current Transformers comics
more you two for this
ended
one.
its first arc, how do you compare it to the animated movie from 1986?" Well, first of all, we haven't read the last issue yet, so I can't quite compare it yet. But I want to say that nothing will compare from the comic book to the movie to me, because the movie was an animated movie, right? And you got to hear those voices, you got to witness all that action, and it was very impactful when you're, you know, however old, 10 years old.
I was gonna say there has to be nostalgia too.
Right.
Yeah. Also, the animated movie, if there had never been another Transformers cartoon after that, there was a certain finality to it. It was like it left it open ended, left it, you know, characters going on to the future to, you know, to be, but you could end it there and you could be satisfied with the way that everything came to a conclusion. There was like deep emotional connection with Optimus Prime and what happened there. And for a kid, you know, coming from the cartoon, which was very, you know, aged down and very, you know, selling toys and all that stuff, to this movie, which kind of leveled it up at the time and made it more serious and more, you know, there was more consequence and everything. It just had more impact at the time. So it's kind of an unfair comparison looking at this, especially because this is an ongoing story where there isn't that finality to it. And this is just the end of, you know, chapter 1, basically.
Right.
So.
I can say though, without that movie, this comic would not be as good.
Yeah.
Because when you read the comic, you hear those voices. You know, it's just that that's what you relate to. And like Brant said, the movie made everything, it leveled it up than the cartoon did, you know.
I think real quick, just as my final note on this, without both the animated Transformers movie and the animated G.I. Joe movie, I don't know that there would still be Transformers and G.I. Joe stuff being made today, because I think those showed what those franchises could be capable of if they were taken beyond their original form.
Right.
We do have another question from Tevia. I'm going to paraphrase, but do you think Spectacular Spider-Man's better, or Spider-Man is better than Amazing Spider-Man? You know, I think that's hard to tell. It's one issue. Like tell me in 10 issues, do I think Ultimate Spider-Man is better?
Yes.
It's so interesting, but why in that one issue I could say yes and not this? I don't know, but I think there's just more story in Ultimate Spider-Man.
I think because this one issue of Spectacular Spider-Man could have been a filler issue or a filler arc in Amazing Spider-Man. You know, we've seen that. We've seen those, you know, bright spots in the past couple of runs where we've enjoyed those stories, and I think this could certainly fit right in there. Whereas Ultimate Spider-Man, it's just a completely different thing and gave us, like you said earlier, Kat, everything we had been wanting in the main Spider-Man book.
Sure.
This is cool. He goes,
it's because Comic Uno ships Peter and MJ. I think we all do.
Yeah. And then he says, I met Optimus Prime voice actor at the Calgary Fan Expo. He was awesome. I saw, like, when you see that guy's interview, like I've seen, and you hear him talk, and then he does the voice of Optimus Prime, you're just like, no way, man. Like, it's just so wild. And you hear his story, like he kind of relates to it with his, I think it was his brother or something like that was in the military or something like that. And he talked to his brother and he said, he's just like, I have this opportunity to be like this truck. And he's like, in this leader, and his brother gave him the advice of how he should, you know, be like Optimus Prime. And he gave him the idea. And I thought it was like really cool, you know, but Optimus Prime is one of those characters that's like, those animated characters that's like a true hero for me. You know,
Mhm.
he means a lot. He really is a true definition of a hero. You know, even though he's a robot, he's not human. Those emotions are there. You know.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's move forward and talk about Batman issue 145. We're coming off of the whole year one Joker thing. And even Joker says, I think one point in this comic, he's like, am I lying? He's like questioning himself or talking to Batman saying, I could have been telling a lie this whole time. So is his whole story a bunch of BS? Can any writer just, retcon this whole story of what happened?
Which I think would be okay if that happened.
Yes.
What's interesting about this issue, I remember the ending. I remember he goes to Wayne Manor, and I was like, oh yeah, that was an interesting cliffhanger. But everything else, I don't remember what happens in this issue. Because I remember what my feeling was after I read it. It's like, oh yeah, I still don't like Batman. But like a week later, I don't know.
Yeah, it's still the Zur-En-Arr story where he's taking over the failsafe.
Right, and he's like the new Batman.
that was the
pretending
bulk
to be
of it,
Bruce Wayne in the failsafe.
It's the continuation
Right.
of Failsafe and Joker almost at the same time. Two arcs that I could care less about. Yes,
Yeah,
now I remember.
exactly.
I mean,
is why it's lower on my list this week.
yeah, it wasn't. It was better than the last one. I
Yes.
thought Jorge Jimenez comes back on this.
Yeah, because at least the art was
yeah,
solid.
so his art
Right.
is good, and you get to see at least the Bat family in this issue as well.
But what do they do? They don't even do. That's the frustrating part. Is like what's going on?
Right. My thing
there's
is,
no
though,
movement.
Is the Bat family that naive to sit there and think that that's Bruce Wayne and that?
Right.
True.
Right.
They should be detectives, or at least one of them. Like Tim was such a big part of this first beginning of this arc. Why is Tim not questioning anything?
Yeah, or Damien. Like Damien seemed to bought it, easier than anyone. It's like, really?
Yeah, he's like,
you're having such great father-son moments in the other book.
and Bruce also seems very out of character there, so maybe it's
Yeah.
understandable. He's just like, I don't know who my father is anymore.
So, but it was better. I mean, I like the
Yeah.
action in the book. I like kind of this horrific look that Failsafe has now. He keeps changing a little bit, and how he is not going to take any crap from anybody. I just don't know how long we're going to drag this story out for, because it seems like every other arc we deal with Failsafe. It's like, oh, look, first 3 issues, Failsafe. Then the next 3 issues, we do something else. Then the next 3 issues, we deal with the whole Joker thing. Now we get another issues of Failsafe. And it's just like, we kind of just like, it's kind of like just stalling everything that's going on,
Yeah, totally.
So, I don't know. Guess we're not all Batman fans right now either.
Hey, there's worse books though.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's go on to our number 4. Brant, what was your number 4 this week?
Mine was Miss Marvel, Mutant Menace. I like that we started to get some of her supporting cast involved again. We still have the elements of the XMen down in the sewers and all that stuff, which is fine. I had no problem with that. There was some funny moments with that. But I do like, focusing more on her supporting cast and everything and that coming back into play. And then we have, somebody making a Miss Marvel costume, that's like the old one. So it seems like we're going to go down that road where there might be 2 Miss Marvels again, which we've seen before, which is a little disappointing that we're going back to that. But at the same time, I thought as this issue alone, it was fun. I think I enjoyed this issue. And I liked the previous mini, but I think I enjoyed this issue because of those elements better than the previous mini series. So
I'll agree with that. This was my number 6. I think the thing that's weird about the supporting character aspect, though, is that why make them forget anyways? Because there's this comment that Miss Marvel was like, oh, I got to really let Zoe and Nakia know that I'm Miss Marvel because they hate me right now. And it's just like such a weird, it's like, why do it if you're going to just tell them? What was the point in the beginning with? And are they gonna like you after they find out you're a mutant? I'm guessing they will, but it's just like these these characters that had a lot of depth do feel very two-dimensional. Because, like, you know,
Agreed.
if you know Nakia and Zoe, they wouldn't care if anyone's a mutant. Like, that's so past their characters. They wouldn't be judgmental. And I think that's also what's been so weird about as volumes have gone on, how almost every character is devolved and just there to make plot move.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. Unfortunately, I'm hoping that at some point down the line they'll find these characters again, but it just yeah, I do like seeing them at the same time though. So there's just that hope that they'll get back to that.
I agree.
What made that whole cast, you know, interesting in the first place.
I don't know. I didn't get anything out of this book really. It was just not for me. It was just too much of really nothing, in my opinion.
A lot of the X-Men stuff,
you know,
but also doing nothing with the X-Men stuff.
And it was just like, and my favorite part though is when they were playing dodgeball, and I love them when they were having the conversation, and then they get pegged by the balls. I thought that was hilarious. It's like a very like kid thing that, you know, happened. I don't know. This just still wasn't good enough for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna continue this. You know, art was good. I liked.
I'm surprised you got this issue because
I wanted to try it because maybe there was something there that might, you know, get me attached to the character again. But I can't seem to find the character like I once liked her when G. Willow Wilson wrote her. You know?
Well, it's because of the direction they've been taking it. I don't think there has been a creator who's been able to do what G. Willow Wilson has, and you know that's not the fault of the character. It really has just been the fault of the direction. And I do think it does seem more like an editorial thing than a creator thing. But I hate saying that so much about these books. It just really does feel like it.
In her case, it's especially true because the changing her from an inhuman to a mutant and everything they've had to do with her because she became so popular. And then you throw in all these other factors with getting the rights to the X-Men back and all that stuff. And it changed everything about her.
Yeah.
It's such a shame because I think Marvel has forgotten what makes this character so fun. And she is still a very likable character. It's a shame, and it goes. And we'll talk about Spider-Gwen, I'm sure, more tomorrow, next week as well. But it's just like same thing for Spider-Gwen. I feel like sometimes people forgot what made that character different. And luckily, I think this volume did a really, really good job at showcasing that. But it's like, oh, we only have 4 issues, and now they're gonna make that not relevant. You know,
and that is a shame because we're so focused on her being a mutant, being an X-Men. And you're going to see less and less of her supporting cast. You're not going to see her family, and that's what is important in her life, you know.
And in the movies too. A lot of people who did like the Marvels, me included, loved Miss Marvel's family and how involved they were. Like people like that, even in the movies.
Absolutely.
Go on.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say I'm be very curious to see because it's co-writers, it's Sabir and then Iman. I would be very curious to see what that co-writing looks like, what their process looks like, and what she is contributing to it. Because I would love to see if the youthful stuff and the more family stuff is coming from her side of it. I don't know. I get that vibe, but who knows?
We do have 2 questions. Is Miss Marvel beyond saving, and should they just go away? First of all, if they just went away, Marvel would have no female heroes. So let's maybe not do that. Especially young heroes that brought a lot of people into Marvel. Like Miss Marvel and Spider-Gwen especially. I promise you, there's a lot of people reading Marvel comics because of them. Either through trades or whatever. And no one's beyond saving. You can even say that about Amazing Spider-Man. Like the next issue could be a great issue, and then the next issue of that could be the great issue. I think nothing's beyond saving. That's crazy talk.
Yeah,
it's true. All right, so let's see. That was your number 4.
That was mine. Yeah.
Oh no, that was
mine. That was Brant. Oh, okay, so what was?
Mine was Birds of Prey, so we were talking
yours
about
was Birds of Prey. Okay, so then mine was Void Rivals, which is what we talked about already. Okay. So then let's move on to X-Men issue 32. So we all read that.
I was so
book.
excited for this issue, and man, oh man,
What were
what a
you expecting,
disappointment.
though?
I
What
was
are you
expecting, okay, so what I was expecting was, because Jerry Dugan has written Kitty well, I was expecting at least an issue that was one character-driven issue with Magic and Kitty teaming up and having fun. The issue is even about getting Lockheed again. It's like, oh, that's a really fun premise. And every place they could have injected character, injected fun, they don't do this issue.
No.
I mean, you can barely tell Kate was in this issue.
I know, and it's so disappointing because I truly did think this could just be a fun one shot because we have seen those before.
Right.
Yeah, you're right, and that's what I said earlier about this run of X-Men. There's been some really good issues, and then there's been not so good issues, and this was one of them. Like, it's just you wind up getting this reunited type of issue with the ladies and with Lockheed, and just the way even Lockheed shows up, he just shows up out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Which was kind of weird.
Right.
But it was just them going out and destroying Orcus and her getting the nanites out, and just like, I don't know, man. It just, they made the battle seem too easy. And listen, Noto's artwork, it just doesn't work for X-Men. It just doesn't. It's just not my style of art. I've said this many times.
Yeah. I don't love the art style for X-Men either. And I haven't loved we talked about lettering earlier. I haven't loved the lettering style for the X books since this entire thing started. It takes me out of it. I don't know what it is about it. If it's the font or there's something about it.
It almost feels like a robot's talking. Like a robot's talking in every single panel.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not loving that. So visually, it's already a disconnect for me. And then you throw in a story like this that has these characters that we all love with Ileana and Kate, and the promise of, oh, this could be a really fun issue. And then we get a very methodical issue with just a couple of, touching moments here and there. The reuniting
and
of Kate
mostly because of Emma. Emma was the best part
mostly
of this issue.
Emma. Yeah, agreed. So
and they destroyed a Sentinel with like a fire hydrant.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's just I don't know, man. I don't know. Just not good. Not good.
We do have a question here for Parker Luck. So without any doubt, is Miss Marvel simply a one-note character because Marvel won't let any one of their characters grow? Sorry for delay on this, but I wanted the discussion. Is she a one-note character? Well, then isn't everybody then, right? Because I can't think of anyone that's grown in the Marvel Universe in the past year. Besides, I'm really trying to think. I mean, Punisher did, but that's over. SpiderMan obviously is not. Like, I think it's just what's going on at Marvel right now. I don't think it's a Miss Marvel thing. If you looked at where she started and where she is now, she's grown tremendously. A one-note character means they only do one thing. Like, she's done many things to make herself a good character.
Yeah. I don't think any character, like any main character, is necessarily a one-note character. It's just what they do with them. And I think that's what that comment kind of alluded to, that they're not going to let any of the characters grow. But that doesn't mean that they just have to be one note. You can still do a lot of different things with characters without, even if they have to like stay, the same. You can still do many things with them, and I think they have. So,
with a lot of, I mean, Octavia brought up X-23. Yeah, we got Sears Wolverine. There's different arcs you get to see with characters, like Jane Foster. There's just depends on the timing of the character in the book. But I feel like as of recently, this past year, I haven't seen as many of those as I want to see.
No, yeah. I mean, when you look at changes, like, you'll go back to, say, Immortal Hulk. Like, look at the change that he went through. Look at Venom. Like, look at Eddie Brock, what he went through. Like, even now, like, even though I'm not like a huge fan of what has gone on with him, the evolution of the character has been extraordinary. Like, he's gone through so much. Dylan Brock, same thing. I mean, he has grown too. There is some characters out there. You just got to kind of dig through it. If you look at Tony Stark throughout his series, in this series, he's grown as a character. It's just like you guys said, it's what you do with the character within that writer's run is, you know, can make a difference, right? So
yeah, and even in Miss Marvel's, you know, case, with just talking about within continuity, because we could talk about like Avengers Twilight, different stuff and different takes on her, but just within continuity, she's been on Champion, she's been an Avenger, she's been an X-Men.
She's a mutant.
I mean, she's exactly. So she's been to space, she's done a lot of different things and grown in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I don't think so.
All right, cool. All right, so we talked about that. We talked about Birds of Prey. So let's just jump into our number 3. Brant, what was your number 3 this week?
Daredevil Gang War issue 4.
Me too.
Nice. The only real good Gang War story. I
will agree with you there.
Yeah, and I love Elektra as a character, and the conversation she had with Peter, where she just basically ignores everything he says, was hilarious. I thought that was fun. I really like seeing Bellona come back in this arc, and their battle was, you know, fun to watch, but at the same time, her trying to reach Bellona and Bellona trying to still find herself, kind of, and there was just a lot of, you know, things to love about this, a lot of elements to dig into that I would love to see this story continue into a larger story. I think it would be a lot of fun to see these characters develop. You know, unfortunately, we're going back to Matt Murdock in Daredevil, but yeah. You gonna say something, Kat? Sorry.
No. I was just gonna agree with you. I'm pleasantly surprised by this book because of just how much character was injected in a miniseries of a story that really did nothing for the Marvel Universe. But there's this really cool introspective story about Elektra being like, well, should I just let this person die? I mean, she is a Wolverine. She probably wouldn't die anyways. So there's this like assassin versus hero thing that we saw a lot in Chip Zdarsky's run, which I think at the height of Chip Zdarsky's run. And then the art is also really good for this book, better than what a miniseries for an event that didn't matter should be. Absolutely. It's just like it's a really nice hidden gem here. If you like Daredevil, and I did drop the other Daredevil because it was more about Matt Murdock. I recommend this. It ended well too. Like I genuinely was very pleasantly surprised by this book.
Yeah, I like seeing the struggle and the conflict that she had, you know, saying, oh, should I go back for Bellona or not? So that was very interesting.
Yeah. And even though this was, you know, very heavily set in Gang War, I think this could be read just like as its own thing. You know, you don't really have to read anything else Gang War with it. Yeah,
I agree 100%.
There's certain scenes that I think maybe this would have been maybe number 2 for me if they didn't tie into Gang War. Be like, oh, you got to go see this person. That might be the only thing, but like you said, you don't need to read Gang War. It's just like they take some intermissions during the book to see certain characters.
Right.
Okay. Cool. All right. So my number, what are we on? 3, you said?
3.
Spectacular Spider-Man. So I enjoyed it. Yep. Okay, so let's dive into Shazam. You guys read Shazam. This is issue 9.
I'm gonna say looking forward to the new creative team because I really didn't quite care for this issue. You could tell it's kind of spinning its wheels to kind of get to a new place. So yeah, I'm kind of just waiting for the new creative team at this point, which I think is next issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lou Pacino illustrated this issue, and Mark Waid was still writing.
Yeah, Mark Waid did.
Yeah, it was a filler issue. There was, I mean, obviously we ended the arc last issue, and then you know we're going into the new creative team, so there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, this was the Creeper thing, right? So it was the Creeper, and you know, kind of finding out who Shazam is and getting his help with something, basically. And it was weird.
Very pigeonholed.
Like, okay.
Yeah,
very
the conversation was not organic between the two.
Right.
It was just a weird issue. We'll see if it gets better. We do have a question from Steven. Do you think Elektra will go back to the main Daredevil title? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I'm not reading it. Mike, are you still reading a lot? Oh, so everyone's not. Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah, we're all not reading it. So
no, I don't like that story. You know, with Matt Murdock currently. So
me either. It wasn't. I really genuinely just like Elektra more than Matt. Like I just don't really like Matt that much as a character. So I really enjoyed Elektra when I've always liked the character. I think she's more interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see.
I think we're on number 2.
Yeah, just like that, man. All right, you ready for this? My number 2.
Go for it.
Sensational She-Hulk.
That is
Wow.
shocking because I did not
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
issue.
What?
That's shocking.
I didn't love it either. Yeah.
Oh my
Because
god,
I
I
was like,
like this one.
I thought you would hate it because it was such a love story.
Right. I thought you would too.
The funny thing is like I like this one because I felt that Jen was very much like Jen in this comic book. I
So
liked
funny.
Okay.
how
Yeah.
so the beginning of this, I didn't like it. The whole lawyer thing, how oh you're suspended, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, fine. And my biggest thing with this comic was like they need to do something else besides being in the freaking office and being in the apartment. It just drove me crazy. And so when they said that they were going to go on vacation and these guys were crashing in their house, I'm like, okay, I find that very hilarious that like they're going to crash in this house. And like Jack of Hearts is just like, they're sleeping in your bed. And she's just like, well, Janet slept in my bed. Other Avengers have slept in my bed. Do you know how many other people have slept in this bed? And I thought that was hilarious. And there were so many like little moments in there that I liked. Like her, like, you know, are they going to have umbrellas in this place? Are they going to have olives? I bet I'm going to bring that. Like she was so genuinely happy about going on vacation and being herself. And I think that's what I liked about it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm
And
glad
then-
you liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
No, and then I was going to say, and then the end, she came to a person that, do you guys know who that person actually is?
I don't.
I do. I'll fill you in after Kat gives her thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
No,
woman,
I don't know who that person is.
the woman that is there goes back to the Silver Surfer days back in the 90s.
Oh.
Yes.
He was in a relationship with Jack of Hearts.
Yeah, it's gonna be a love triangle thing.
Yeah.
I
that's what
figured
was
that
gonna
at
go
the
into.
end.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I figured that
Obviously,
was
yeah.
gonna happen.
So, and she
It's,
obviously doesn't know that. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a wild thing. But I just liked it because I felt it was written better. I thought it was drawn better. It actually felt like it had a story to me. Whereas, like, say for instance, when the whole Hulk arc was going on, there was nothing there. You know what I'm saying? And this just felt like it had something. The last issue I liked better, but for me, this issue was even better because I feel like it's going somewhere and maybe they might have an actual like adventure, maybe in space or something.
I think they are because there was like a cover. I think maybe it was this cover that it was in space. But no, I didn't love this issue as much as I did last issue. I really loved last issue with Patsy. I thought that was phenomenal. But I like this arc a lot more. Like I like this volume more. I do think there is more of a direction, and I think it's just so interesting that this book is so polarizing for all three of us. We're never on the same page.
Yeah, I did like last issue, and I didn't hate this issue. It was back to the Jack of Hearts stuff, and I don't love that stuff. But
Same.
Yeah, this character recently showed up in Scarlet Witch too. So she came through the door in that series, and she was in a couple of issues where they went and fought against each other and then with each other and that whole thing. But then I went and looked up the stuff that you just mentioned, Mike, where she had this whole history with Jack and all that stuff, you know, from way back in the day. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that's definitely got me interested about the next issue, and I want to see what happens with that. And you know, she's they have ties to like Thanos and Terrax and all these like heavy hitters in the Marvel universe and stuff. So
yeah, and I just like I said, I like Jen in this issue. I thought she was more, you know, the character that I liked here. You know, so it was cool. Different scenery, I guess, too. Yeah. All right. So that was my number 2. So what was your 2, Kat?
Mine was Pine to Merrimack. I want to love
didn't
this.
Have it, so I didn't read it.
I will say It's an interesting book because, again, another week, maybe this would have been number 5 or number 6, because there's parts I really like about it. Like, I like learning about her past. I enjoy it. So there's this opener where she talks about why she's not like a detective anymore, because she would like throw up at bodies, like dead bodies. I'm like, oh, that was fun. And anytime you get to see her past, I thought it was really interesting. But then the actual mission, I was like, oh, that was just fine. And I want to love this book because I think it's a really cool concept, but there's something that is holding me back a little bit. But I liked this issue. I thought there's definitely a lot of things in here I enjoyed. I just don't know if it's at the level I want it to be. But yeah, I'm curious to see how long everyone, like, if you guys are gonna last on the book now. You didn't get this issue, or Brent, you didn't read it.
Only 4 issues,
right?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Where the hell is this going? Because they have not gone to the main mystery.
That's my concern about it. I think this would do better as a longer
I thought it was. That's something.
Yeah.
They reference that sister. She does not show up in this issue. Oh my, wow. That's crazy. How are they gonna wrap this one up?
Yeah.
All right. So, and what was yours, Brent?
Void Rivals. So
cool. All right. So then let's talk about this one. Weapon XMen issue 1.
Not what I expected.
Oh, it was totally what I expected.
I thought at least there'd be some fun. I thought there'd be like, again, well, I don't know why I'm expecting fun in my comics, but I was like, oh, maybe they'll interact and do something.
I didn't like the previous story that led to this.
The original X-Men.
So I kind of understood here that this probably would have been more of the same. The only thing I liked about this was Zombie Wolverine. He was like the comical one for me, you know, how he was always hungry and wanted to eat something. But besides that, this book was just way too much trying to explain everything that was going on with Onslaught and it's just like, man, this is not a new reader-friendly book for people. Not at all.
No. I thought they would at least describe who all the different Wolverines were. Because there's some I knew, obviously. But then there's some, like, I don't know who they are. And they don't explain anything. They hardly interact. They don't even really feel like a cast of characters. And I just felt like it was really bogged down. I was very disappointed with this one.
Yeah, I actually did like the previous one. I didn't love it, but I did like it. But this one... yeah, I felt the same way as both of you. It was like there was nothing really to connect me to any of these except for like the Age of Apocalypse one, which I have history with that character. So, but he was very one-dimensional in this story. And the only, like, visually, I really liked Jane, the female one. I think that was great.
Howlett.
I like her from the era that she was, and all that. I was just like, I'd like to read a story with her in it, but we didn't get much of her either. So there was nothing really here to like.
I think they tried to pack in too much. It's just like, you got all the story with Apocalypse. You got Jean Grey in there. You got all the 5 different Wolverines. You got the Uncanny Avengers in there. And it's just like they're trying to save the world. And, they escape at the very end. And it's just like no real character interactions. Nothing for you to really like these characters. And the only reason why, again, like I said, the character that I felt like made any impact for me was Zombie Wolverine, because I felt like he did like most of the talking in the comic, And then of course you got Wolverine kissing Jean Grey in this book because you had to do it, right?
Sure.
It was so, it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work. So I'll be passing up the next issue for sure.
Same.
Yeah. Ditto.
All right. So let's go to our number 1 comics. So interesting to hear. What is your number 1?
Be all over the place.
Mine is obvious. It's Ghost Spider, Spider-Gwen. I don't know why I call it Ghost Spider. She used to be called Ghost Spider.
You really thought that was your number 1?
I did not love any book this week. I
didn't like that one.
Oh, I liked it though. I liked this issue.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just enjoyed MJ and Gwen's interaction. I enjoyed that they had a conclusion, even though I think it's hysterical that this book came out before issue 4. But definitely there's stuff in issue 4 that you needed to know to read this issue. I just like their relationship a lot. And I think the issue did as much as they could with that relationship and gave a final goodbye. Yeah, I just had fun with it. I like this universe, and also I think it's this knowing that we're not gonna ever get it again. This is gonna be the last time we ever see them all interact.
I like the miniseries. I like the Smash. I've liked every issue of that. This, I didn't like the art for one.
Yeah,
The art was weaker.
Yeah,
the art was definitely weaker, and I felt like, again, you're a little lost because you don't have that final issue, and at the same time, there was just, it was like wall to wall going. You know, MJ was like Carnage 1 minute, MJ the next, and you don't know. It was just a lot.
they're just running around. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got this Dr. Octopus adopted son character running around. You know,
makeshift Sinister Six just popping in and out, just let
me have MJ because she's gamma radiated, and I could take her and I could do experiments on her.
They were fun enough for me. I thought it was fun action in that regard. But
I'm sorry, and then attach it to a reprint.
Oh, we gotta ignore that. We gotta ignore
but for that money, like that's not worth it. That's not worth it. They're like, let's attach a story that should not be even out it should be out this week, and the other issue should have came out last
I don't know why they did that.
Know?
That's so I think maybe it's because of the way they lined up the issues. Maybe the issue 4 is 51, but then like, why do they miscount? Does it matter? I don't know. It's weird to see where Spider-Man's gonna go. I liked it. I thought it was solid. It was the one
Carnage was weak, man. Like,
you don't like MJ
you're
Carnage?
A Carnage symbiote, and she's like, I can control it. I can stop it. And it's like, no, you can't. Like, come on, man. This is just
she's gonna try.
No, but she can't. She's just like, I don't know.
There's gonna be a whole new series called Carnage MJ.
Should have ate Spider-Gwen. That would have been better for me. Like,
that
would have been better. Yeah. There's no way she could
more
control
Gwen.
that. In this universe, she's got no powers whatsoever. And she's trying to control something that she's never had before.
I'll give the benefit of the doubt of what room is there to do it, right? If you're going to tell a story, of not controlling the Carnage, you got 20 pages to tell the end of Earth 65. What are you going to do?
At the end of the day, what did this issue accomplish?
I think it did a lot for MJ and Spider-Gwen's relationship. I think you got at least a closing chapter of where their friendship is at, which has honestly been building for a very long time. So in that regard, I think they at least closed a chapter, be like, okay,
but it was done in such a rushed, clumsy way.
Yeah.
And the worst Carnage could do with MJ was, you always let me down. It's like, really, this is your Carnage? This is how violent your Carnage is?
Look,
it's disappointed in you?
I wish there was an ongoing. I think there's so much story you could tell with it. And honestly, if you look at when Gwen became Venom, I mean, look how much they were able to do there with the angst and how much that controls her. I do wish that, but I do think this is stronger than the clone stuff we got with Gwen and honestly, most of the previous series we've been getting with Gwen.
You know what they should have done with this?
What?
They should have made it giant size and combine issue 4 or what issue are 4 and 5 together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they could have spread out the story more.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of doing this king size and then a final issue and released it all at once, or made it a bigger issue, at least make it more impactful, more emotional. Because Brant's right. This goodbye was rushed. It was one panel. It really was. It was just one panel. Yeah. So, but hey, you liked it. And I guess that's
look, I didn't love it. I hope that Smash issue 4.
Well, I said you liked it. I never.
Yeah, I did like it. I had a good time with it because I like this universe and I like the writer. But no, I do wish that again this week and last week, just bad taste in my mouth. I really hope this. I want a book that I'm like, wow, that freaking wowed me. I feel like it's been a while. It's been a few weeks since I've had a book that's been like that was great. This is why I love comics.
Transformers.
Transformers is good, and it's consistently.
I know it is for me and Brant. No. That's just.
It's not do a power bomb. It's not do a power bomb for me because that was like so. Like there are times like the last issue of Transformers, there was a cliffhanger of a character I didn't know. So I'm just like,
Right.
oh, like I don't know that
Yeah,
person. So there is still a little bit of that disconnect, unlike like Do a
Yeah.
Power Bomb, where every issue's like, I don't need to know anything because everyone doesn't know anything,
Yeah.
you know? I think that's the one disconnect where it's not like, and I still do love that comic. It's still a great comic, but it's not one where I was like, this is why I love comics.
Ultimate Spider-Man. That's, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
issue 1 was probably the last one where I was like, wow, this is why I love comics, you know?
All right. Brent.
We're doing number 1, yeah.
Yes.
I forgot where we were at. Spectacular Spider-Man, which tells you what kind of week this is, but
Sure.
yeah, that's my number 1.
All right. Mine again was Gunslinger Spawn, issue 29.
I figured
that's
it
a
had to be a
consistent book
Spawn
for you.
book,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's takes place after the whole issue 350, and Gunslinger Spawn, just like all the other Spawns, doesn't have any powers, and he's just all injured and bruised up, and he's keeping, low cover in a hotel room, and some gangbangers are just kind of messing with the housekeeper that works at the hotel, and he intervenes, and now these two are going to be working together. Kind of pays her off and says, hey, I'll give you a bunch of money if you let me use your Iron Horse. He calls a car Iron Horse because he's illiterate. He doesn't know how to deal with like tech and stuff like that. And just overall, it's a great book, man. I loved it. So very entertaining. So curious to see where we're going to go right now. So fun stuff. And that's it. That's all the comics. So I guess we can go to most anticipated now.
Yeah, let's do it. So we got some books to talk about this week, at least.
There's again a lot of books. This is actually harder. There was a lot of books I was looking forward to this week.
Yeah, like all the books on both of y'all's lists were like ones I was considering too, so I just kind of changed it up a little bit. But yeah, let's talk about your number 3, Mike. Let's go with Green Lantern because we all enjoyed
that.
That
was
book
close
as well.
for me.
Yeah, Green Lantern's good every single time it comes out, and now I feel like we're starting to get into the story a little bit. We got introduced to the what's the United Planets Corps.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
Yeah, the guys are able to change colors at will, and I feel like they're the ones that are behind destroying the lantern batteries. So that's really interesting here. And then, of course, we still got the whole will they, won't they get together, Carol Ferris, Hal Jordan type of situation. And Hal can't leave Earth right now. I love this book. The art is really good in here. I can't wait for this. This is another one of those books for me where I can't wait to read each time it comes out.
Yeah, it's the one. Yeah. Well, Superman too. I really like Superman, but Green Lantern's that book where I'm like literally excited to go to the comic book store. Where I'm just like, what's gonna happen? Like, I'm excited for multiple reasons. It's not just like, oh, I want to see what happens with Carol. It's like, no, I want to see where this part of the story goes, or what's going on with Hal. Like, it's just like it feels again like a comfort television show. You continue to go back to, and I like this. That tends to happen with indie books more these days. So it's cool to see that happen with a Marvel or DC book.
Yeah, and I love that some writer has finally found a different thing to do with the emotional spectrum too, and I'm really curious to see where that goes. So yeah, my number 3 is a Tom King book from Dark Horse.
That was close for me too, because at Wonder Woman he's been doing so great. So
yeah, so this is Helen of Windhorn issue number 1. The art looked good from what I saw. It's Bilquis Evely doing the art, and
same artist who did the Supergirl run.
Yeah. So I don't know that I have read a Tom King indie book. I don't even know if he's done.
Me either.
No, he's done a lot. He's done.
Has he?
Animal Pound.
Oh, Animal Pound, but I didn't like that.
I didn't like Animal Pound either.
It was way too much for me.
He did Sheriff of Babylon. Okay. He did.
I didn't read that either.
The Love Everlasting book, which I didn't love. There's like a romance book he did that was on Substack.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't read any of that. Yeah. Okay. So I just haven't read any of them yet. So this will be my first introduction to his DC Marvel stuff. So I'm curious about it. The concept sounded interesting to me. Anytime you have like a mansion or a manor or something that has like passageways and mysteries and stuff, I'm at least paying attention. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go to your number 3 then, Kat, because I think that's one that we're all going to try, which is I Heart Skull Crusher.
Yeah, I love sports stories. I'm a big sucker for them, and I don't feel like we get a lot of them, especially in comics. And this is a made up sport, so I'm kind of interested in that.
Yeah.
And also I really like this writer. She has not let me down. She wrote the Mary Marvel, Captain Marvel, which was good. And then she also wrote Amazon Attacks, which has no right to be as good as it is. So I'm just like, she's got a 2 for 2 for me. So I'm like, oh, I want to see what she ends up doing for her own book. And again, I just like a good sports story. I think they could be the best character stories. I truly believe that. So I've been getting into more basketball lately. So, it looks like it could be a little, I feel like it looks like it's a combination of a lot of sports. So I'm excited for it. And the art looks good too.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's jump to well, we talked about Avengers Twilight earlier in the show, so the next issue of that one comes out as well. That's Mike's number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Last issue was the Miss Marvel thing where she finally got involved, right?
Yeah, and then Thor makes his appearance at the last page.
Right. Yeah, that's it. So we're getting Thor now.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting.
Absolutely.
Cool. We also mentioned Napalm Lullaby, which is my number 2. Rick Remender. Yeah, so I'm always going to try those.
I don't even know what the book is about. I just saw Rick Remender on it, and I just was like, okay, I'll try it.
Same.
Nice. It's the only thing I know about it is somebody with superpowers who has been they grew up to believe that they are God.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know where I assume that's going to fall apart, as things go. So I'm interested in it. All right, and then Mighty Morphin Power Rangers: The Return, number 2 is your next one, Kat, which we all love the first issue.
I'm looking forward to that a lot too.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so excited. Issue 1 kind of blew my mind. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, and I should have expected that. So yeah, issue 2, I'm really excited for. That's why I have a lot of hopes for this week's books. There are a lot of books that have a lot of potential to be good books. So I'm hoping we have a solid top 5 next week.
Yeah. And then Spider-Gwen, we'll end that with your number 1, Kat.
I want to see how it ends.
Yeah, it's how it ends before it ended.
How it ends before
exactly. I gotta see. I'm not.
This one. Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to as much the new issue 1, so I'm trying to savor.
Yeah.
What I have left of Earth 65.
No, I get that. I totally get that. And then Transformers, which we also mentioned, is mine and Mike's number 1. Issue number 6, the end of the first arc. So
yeah, the end of the first arc and the last issue that Daniel Warren Johnson is drawing,
doing the art. Yeah,
and then we're going.
Someone's supposedly going to die, right?
I get. Yeah, someone supposedly dies, and then our next artist is going to be the artist that, like we talked about, that did Batgirls and the Me You Love in the Dark. Is the one that's.
Oh wow, that's gonna be really different.
So
but still kind of funky.
It fits.
So,
it still fits. That is going to look a bit different for sure. But I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I just hope he doesn't leave as a writer anytime soon, because I don't know.
From what I've been hearing, I think he's contracted to do 12 issues.
Okay,
that's something, because he does seem like the type of person who doesn't like staying on things for very long.
Yeah,
I mean, what's the longest thing he has stayed on? Like usually
everything he's done
has
been a mini series.
Yeah. So far,
he might want to do his own thing after this. Like, he built it. Like, also when you're in such a height with Transformers, like, and obviously I'm sure there's stories to tell, but it's like you don't want to go downhill, right? You always want to leave on
right. You want to leave while you're on top. Yeah, absolutely.
And he does that very well. He ends stories while he's on top, and I rather him leave on issue 12 than have anything go downhill, even if that means I don't read Transformers anymore. Like, I'm cool with that. But like, just give me a solid beginning, middle, and end. That's all I kind of care about.
Yeah. Just hopefully you would get a competent, person to take over.
Right.
That's what you want. You don't want it to fall into the nonsense that happened while it was at IDW,
No,
I don't even know who you bring that's similar to his writing style. He is such a distinct style that I cannot compare
Yeah.
it to. I mean, even if like closest, and I don't even think this is actually closest, maybe Tom Taylor, but the only reason I say it's the closest because they're both character driven writers, but I think Tom Taylor is at times too character driven, but not really that plot driven. So
yeah, he's not plot driven.
yeah.
He's good, like character wise, I feel like when it comes to emotional parts.
Right.
But when it comes to growing a character, I don't think he can do that well.
I agree to a certain extent. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just been a while since we've had the opportunity to see that. But
like I don't see real growth in Nightwing, right? And you know, you saw, I guess you want to say Superboy or Superman, or you know, maybe
Dark Knights of Steel, they had some character growth.
I was gonna say at his best, it's stuff that's not like in mainstream continuity stuff though. So
yeah, it's mini series. Yeah,
maybe he would be good on something like Transformers.
Right.
It's, I don't know.
Mr. Negative says maybe it'll be Kirkman. I don't know how to feel about that. Like I like Kirkman, but he also just tips every single time. Look at Firepower. It's like every single time he starts on this real high and then like it just lulls.
Brant and I talked about this last week. Like we talked about how I think when it came to Firepower, he found out that Transformers and all this Energon stuff, and I think his focus went elsewhere.
But that seems to happen all the time. Every book he has, his focus goes somewhere else. Like Outcast was the same thing. That book started out pretty well, and then it just dipped. Every single book he does.
Maybe it's because of when it's the success of other stuff. I don't know. Like when you look at The Walking Dead, that went on, and then you got Invincible that went on and not completed. You know what I'm saying?
And it ended well enough. Like I remember I liked the ending, but there wasn't anything. There's awesome arcs in Invincible, but there is 20 issues in between sometimes where it's like, where's this going?
That's just his writing style. Yeah, that's his writing style. It is true. A whole comic is just one scene,
But had those two particular books not blown up like they did, would they have ended up like the rest of these?
Sure.
Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would love to see Brian K. Vaughan. That's actually who I'd really like to see. I think he's the only other person who could do, because he has Brian K. Vaughan. Because again, what Darren Warren Johnson does so well is combination of great character work and moving the plot. And Brian K. Vaughan does a really good job at that too. I know Saga has some hiccups, but I do think maybe that's an eternal thing. But every other story you've ever read from him, there's twists and turns, wonderful character work. That's the only other person I can see. Granted, he's my favorite writer, but still. And what else is he working on right now? He has Saga, and he's doing that Substack book. But other than that, he's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that it for number?
I think so. I think we're wrapping up.
All right. So yeah, I guess that's it. Just like that, boom, we have a conversation and then it's over. Just like this show. But what that means is you guys can go to sleep now, wake up, you'll have new comic book day. You'll get to spend $100 on comics this week because there's a lot of comics, and enjoy it, because I know I will, and I know my friends will here as well. So
I'm hoping for a 5-star book, man. That's what I'm hoping for.
We're gonna get it. I think we're gonna get it next week.
See. I think the last one was. I think I gave SpiderMan. I think I gave Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1 5 stars. Yeah. How can you not?
No, I'm gonna get it with Transformers. I know that for sure. That's no doubt in my mind, for sure.
I think so as well.
I think Skull Crushers is gonna be 5 stars for me.
Yeah, sure.
or
you need to keep that expectation low, man.
No, I don't actually think it's gonna be 5 stars.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Weekly to watch every single show that we have done for the past Lord knows how many years at this point. And of course, subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0, Comic Uno, and Only Good Comics. You can follow us on the socials, of course. And as always, guys, enjoy that new comic book day. And we will see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.